Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, I will be taking you through step by step, I can't believe I'm about to say this, Tournament Triple Deathstrike video. That's right, my Ogre brain has degenerated enough that I thought it would be a good idea to take 3 of the worst units in the entire game, not just the guard, but the entire game, to a tournament. And so without further ado, let's set target coordinates, raise our missiles into the sky, and slam the big red button right into this. ACHTUNG conscripts! Warlord Games is now an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. And not only that, they have given me an affiliate link which I have popped down in the description below. By using that link, you can get your hands on some awesome World War II bolt action miniatures and at the same time support the Mordian Glory channel.
Bring it to me, Fagolite! 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 Fagolite!
You have all the ideas, so what are you waiting for? Do the right thing and buy yourself some bolt action today. Now, before we get into the army list itself, I'm sure many of you are wondering, why? Why am I taking Triple Deathstrike to a tournament? Honestly, it's just for the memes. It's just for a bit of fun. And I've been running a lot of meta lists, even if they have been a little bit wacky and out there. Fundamentally, they have been competitive and they've been trying to make things work and find the edges of the guard meta and what is possible with our datasheets. But I thought, for a little change of pace, for a little change of gear, as it were, why don't we take something that is truly memey, will look great on the tabletop, probably lose every game, but look good doing it. But having said that, I want you all to rest assured that I have tried to make this list as viable as possible. And I'm hoping that it might be able to win a game despite it having 3 Deathstrikes. And rather than just taking a total meme list full of utterly terrible units, I've tried to make a good list and then have my Deathstrikes play the role of my indirect fire. So in an ideal world, I wouldn't have these triple Deathstrikes. I'd have double or triple Basilisk here instead. But we are running the triple Deathstrikes and we're going to see if we can make them work inside of what would normally be a pretty viable and competitive army. It's probably worth diving into the specific units of this list. So let's start off over here on the left with the Infantry Corps. Every day in the Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune, every formation a parade. I love the Corps. And once again, our Corps in this list is going to be a mechanized one. I have got 5 units of ACHTUNG Jungle Fighters, and every single one of them is going to be inside a Chimera APC. Now, each one of those caster units is going to be equipped with a Voxcaster and double Flamer, and then each one of these Chimeras is going to have a double Heavy Flamer loadout as well. So in this army, I really wanted to run a bunch of Hellhounds, but I couldn't quite squeeze everything in. So I thought, hey, why don't I run a bunch of pseudo Hellhounds, a bunch of wannabe Hellhounds? And so these Chimeras are not only transporting my infantry around, but they're also going to be doing that job that Hellhounds love to do, which is pushing forward and creating dilemmas for my opponent with lots and lots of potential very juicy Overwatch. Side note, of course, the firing deck cannot be used for Overwatch, but still the double Heavy Flamer should be quite spicy. The role of the Armoured Fist squads, of these Hellhound squads, is going to be to play the primary game. I want them scout moving forward. I want them putting pressure onto my enemy. I want to be taking primary objectives early on, which will also give me some knock-on secondary game. You know, if I get extend battle lines or secure no man's land in the first turn or two, I want to have units in position to hoover those points up nicely. And of course, I want units which are durable enough that they will be able to go on to those primary objectives and also hold them. One of the things that I've noticed recently is the lethality of 40k has been getting higher and higher and higher, and some of my infantry blobs have been struggling to weather the storm. Maybe at the beginning of the edition, 20 Catachans could set an objective and they could take that no problem. But now I tend to find, unless it's a blob of Kriegers, infantry is getting sized down pretty quickly. So I've been playing a lot of Mechanized Guard. It's been solving a lot of my problems. It's a lot harder to kill a Chimera and then kill the 10 infantry that spill out of it as well than it is for my opponents to sweep aside a blob of 20 Catachans. Just a quick thing to mention, in a few of my lists recently, I've been taking a lot less infantry. I've taken as little as 30 infantry in a tournament list, and I have definitely found that that is a big weakness of my more recent armies. And so I have had a bit of a return to form here, and I've gone for 5 Chimeras all filled with very OC intensive infantry, because there's been a few games where I've lost them or it's been a very close run thing because I didn't have a lot of objective control. I was trying to get by with the bare minimum. So now we've got a little bit more on the list. I'm hoping that will solve some of the issues I've been having recently with my armies. And one last thing to mention is a big factor for me choosing Chimeras and going Mech Guard with this army is the tournament I am planning to go to. I'm planning on taking this list to Just Play, which is a place where I do a lot of my tournaments. And the terrain there is good, but it definitely has a few open firing lanes. It's not quite as dense as UKTC or WTC terrain. As a result, you don't have as much terrain to hide infantry blobs behind. And so having more mechanized infantry will allow me to make up for not having all of the cover that I need and having a few more durable units that might have to take a bit of firepower because they couldn't hide behind terrain turn 1. With all of that said, now let's come over to the main damage dealers, the real big guns of the army, and we have got 5 Leman Russes. Now the 2 here at the front are going to be tank commanders, so if you see the Martial Cannon, that's a tank commander, and they are going to be equipped with Plasma Cannon sponsons. I've just noticed this Plasma Cannon is upside down. It's a Simon pattern Plasma Cannon. And we've also got 2 Las Cannons in there as well. And each tank is going to be equipped with a Hunter Killer Missile and a Heavy Stubber. I like the Martial Cannons of my tank commanders because even though they're very swingy, because tank commanders don't get Squadron and they don't get orders, if you take anything less than the Martial Cannon, it tends to feel very lackluster. And the Martial Cannon, sometimes it does nothing, but sometimes it blows away entire units on its own. At least it doesn't rely upon Squadron, and it doesn't rely upon Born Soldiers, it doesn't rely upon orders to still be able to do damage. So yes, the Martials are very swingy, but I have found out of all the weapon options I take on my Leman Russes, these are the ones that actually allow them to do something other than just do orders. Speaking of doing tank orders, this tank commander over here is going to be enhanced with Grand Strategist, allowing him to do 2 orders, giving me 3 tank orders in total, which is perfect because I have got 3 Leman Russ Vanquishers. You know them, you love them, they are the big dick cannons of the Imperial Guard. Now at the beginning of 10th edition, I thought Vanquishers were kind of trash, but after using them in multiple tournaments, honestly, they are my go-to competitive Leman Russ hull now. Those Vanquisher cannons have the potential to do insane damage, and these guys are really cheap. And even if the enemy has a bunch of invulnerable saves and they just start tanking those Vanquisher rounds, it's alright, because all of the las cannons and plasma cannons and heavy stubbers and hunter killer missiles, all of the accoutrements, the other weapons on these hulls, can really help get the job done. And between these 5 Leman Russes, even if the Demarches are a bit swingy and the Vanquishers are a bit risky, we've still got 10 plasma cannons and 5 las cannons and 5 heavy stubbers every single turn. That is just a lot of firepower on its own, and so the turrets, they can be a little bit risky because we've got a lot of backup, we've got a lot of insurance across these 5 hulls. Another big reason why I've started to love the Vanquisher is the dilemma that it puts my opponent into. Sure, it's only 1 shot, and sure, there are a lot of 4+ invulnerable saves out there, but if my opponent moves out and then just fails that invul, and we've all been there, 4th invulnerable save, you fail it, CP reroll it, you fail it again, suddenly the amount of potential damage that those Vanquishers can do is wild. It's really, really big. And I have genuinely had games, multiple games at multiple tournaments that I've been running these bad boys, where my opponent has decided to deploy something in a suboptimal position or not move something forward simply because of the threat that the Vanquisher cannon has posed. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. These first two parts of the list are pretty spicy and will probably be familiar to regular viewers of the channel. I want to take something that I knew was tried and tested, something that could definitely make up for the third part of the list. The triple Deathstrike, baby! Oh man, what can I say about these things? They look great. They look super intimidating. If only they were as powerful as they looked. So the big problem with the Deathstrike is that despite the fact that you can target like low knock people with it, despite the fact that it could do like 2d6 shots hitting on like 2s to multiple units in the in sort of the blasters area, the problem is that it's damage 1. And that completely just kicks the legs out from underneath this thing. It goes from being able to, if it was damage 2, it would reliably wipe out probably multiple Marine and Marine equivalent squads. And with damage 1, you'll be lucky if you can even tickle the sides of an Intercessor squad. It's just so damn lackluster. These guys have kind of fallen from grace a little bit, I feel. Because in 9th edition, you had all sorts of different types of Deathstrike you could take, like the God Spear missile and all that stuff. And now you're just stuck with the Plasma one, which was always a bit of the weaker option. So it's definitely had a bit of a fall from grace. Definitely not the weapon it once was. It's definitely a bit lackluster. So what is the role of these things in this army? Well, obviously they're there to make it memey, but also I've taken these as my indirect fire option. So rather than having double Basilisk or a pair of Field Horns batteries or a brace of Manticores or anything like that, we've gone for the triple Deathstrike, which is actually a bit more than I would normally spend on my indirect fire. But if you're going to take one Deathstrike, you should take 3 Deathstrikes for the absolute, for the full tier, full bore meme that it is. And also, I'm hoping that by taking 3, I might actually be able to just throw enough of these shitty shots at the wall to see if we can make something stick. I mean, at the very least, maybe I'll be able to force my opponent to move off an objective for a turn. Maybe it'll sort of psych them out. Maybe it'll be a bit of voodoo. But I suspect that the moment I ever launch one of these things, the cat will be out of the bag, and they probably, my opponent will probably realize how laughable and ineffective they are, and will just start wading through the nuclear fire without really worrying about it. But the plan is, these guys are going to be doing their traditional role, these guys are going to be doing their traditional role, and these guys are going to be trying to do the role of a Basilisk. Last part of the list, we've got 5 Tempestus Scions. Nothing really to write home about with these guys. Cheap deep strike unit that can come down and do some secondaries such as establish locus or behind enemy lines or engage in all fronts and all that good stuff. I would prefer to have 2 5-man units of Scions, but the bare minimum that you can get away with is a single unit of 5, and that will at least help me get some secondary gain. Honestly, if these guys do end up spunking all of their missiles and they're just a bunch of heavy bolters driving around, then there's a real good chance that these guys are also going to be doing some secondary games for me as well. And that just about covers it. We have got 13 armoured vehicles in this army, and we have also got 55 infantry. I'm hoping that we've covered all of our bases, with the infantry and the chimeras doing the primary game, the Lima Russes doing the direct damage, and the Deathstrikes doing the indirect fire, and the Scions doing some secondary game. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. How would you have run this triple Deathstrike list? Do you think there's anything I could do to make it better? Or am I fighting a futile battle to try and make these things somewhat usable? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure, and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and Patreons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Wolf, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.